Hey guys, it's Maymay, and today I am playing with a card. Now you will have seen it in the thumbnail, but I don't really know where this is going to go. So I'm going to play. I have this idea. I'm really feeling fall lately, which is crazy, right? Because it's just August and it's hot as blue blazes. But I have these dies that I've had for a really long time. I got them at Tuesday morning and I only paid $3.99 for them, so I snatched them up. But I have this idea for using these and doing a partial die cut easel card, which we've done before, nothing groundbreaking. I just want to play and I thought I'd bring you guys along. So I went through my stash and I pulled out some fall colors that I really like. And these are kind of, this is not a scrap here obviously, but these were from my scrap drawer because sometimes if I use like a card base where I cut a piece in half, I'll put these into my scrap drawer so I'll have another card base if I need it, but we're going to use it in this project. Now I'm going to start with this brown. I love this brown color. It's my favorite. People ask me all the time about this cardstock. This is brown Nina cardstock, which I pick up at Walmart. I love this brand and it's wonderful for card bases. Now I'm going to trim this guy down to 5.5. So basically I'm cutting an 8.5 by 11 piece in half. And now that gives me 2 card bases. So I could make this card twice. And if I mess up, I may need to. So I'll put that aside for a second. So now we're going to score this guy. And this is a textured cardstock. See that texture? It's textured on one side, smooth on the other. I want this to be the front of the card. So I'm going to flip this over and do my scoring on the back of the paper. And my first score is the standard A2 score. So with this being 8.5 this way, I need to score it at 4.25. So just your standard card base is what we start with. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to score this front portion because it's going to be the easel portion. And I'm going to score it in half because I want it to stand up directly in the center of the card. So we scored it at 4.25 to start with, which means we're going to score it at 2 1/8 to get the center of this front panel. Now my bone folder jumped the line a little bit right there, but I'm not going to stress about that because when I fold it, all that'll be gone away. All right, so now we have it scored. I'm going to fold it and go ahead and crease these lines down. I need to because I need to see where I'm going to be putting my die cuts to do my partial die cutting. Now that is the front fold of the card, and then this is the middle fold. And I'll show you what my madness is in just a second. So when this card is finished, it's going to stand up like this and be an easel style card. So that is the basics of making an easel. It's making a basic card base and then scoring that front so that it can then fold and catch in whatever we put in this area. Okay? So now for the fun part. I'm going to bring those dies over. So I just have them laying there on my magnetic sheet right beside the card base. Now what we're going to do here is I want these leaves to be lifted up off the page so that when this easel card stands up, some of that leaf stands up as well. So I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to take the first leaf and I'm going to place it onto the card front, overlapping the score line we made. The score line is going to serve as my stop for cutting, okay? I'm not going to cut underneath this leaf. I'm just going to cut it out at the top. This is just partial die cutting. I'm going to do the same thing with this leaf. And I think this one may go right here in the middle. Nope, I think I'll work it around. I'll figure that all out. Something like that. I might even bring this one over. See, this is where I play. Go ahead and just lay them around and see where you want things. And I might do 2 of these. One kind of low, one kind of high. And then do this guy in the middle. And then the other one. And then use this guy as filler for the front. So that's what you do. Play around and see how you want it. Now, I don't have that perfect because I'm going to bring my Cuttle Bug in. So I have my Cuttle Bug out. I have my extended cutting plates, and I'm using the magnetic cutting mat that is sold on Cricut.com. I have a video about that. If you want to see it, I'll link it. And then if you want to pick it up, you can get it on Cricut.com. But what's cool about it is it magnetizes my dies into place, and I don't have to tape them down. Then I have this all set up. Here's what I've done. I've taken my die leaves where I want them, and I have overlapped that center score line on the front of our card. The reason I did that is when I cut this portion out, I want the leaves to pop up but still be attached to the bottom. All this will make sense in just a few minutes. Now I'm going to pull this out for a second to show you this step. I'm going to take the other B plate, and I'm going to line it up with the score line on the front of that card, only cutting the top portion of my die, leaving the bottom portion connected. That'll make sense after I get done cutting it. So I'm just running this through. I'm gonna go a little slow because I want to talk to you about this. You can see that die's hanging out. It's only gonna cut where my plate is. This is partial die cutting. So I've just taken this out to show you what I've done. I'm gonna sit it down. I'm pulling that top plate off. I'm gonna pick this guy up and show you. When I remove this one and this one, I get a cutout at the top, but it's still attached enough to hang over the top. Can you see how that's hanging over the top? So whenever I make this into the easel card, those leaves are going to stand up because they're cut out. And that's what I was looking for. So I was going to do a third leaf. This one doesn't quite fit, so I'm just going to play with another idea and see where it goes. So that is where my two stand-up leaves will live, and I'm good with that. Now we're going to do some other die cutting to go on top of here. Back to the Cuttlebug again. Now, I'm going to cut this time these leaves in colors. So I only have the two dies. Well, I actually have three because I'll start using this one now too. So I'm just going to run different colors through using those scrap pages that I showed you. Let's start with the red because that'll be really pretty and vibrant. So I'm going to lay this leaf down here. And I'm going to cut a bunch of these while I'm cutting because I know I'll be using these in the fall. So if I have ones that I don't use on this project, I'm not going to worry about that. I'm just going to put them into my scrap drawer and then I'll have some elements cut whenever I need them. So I'm through with all my die cutting and now I'm going to do some embossing. And this is a paisley embossing folder and I just think it is gorgeous for fall. And it just, I don't know, paisleys make me think of fall for whatever reason. And I'm going to put these leaves into this embossing folder and I'm going to emboss them all. I want them to all have pattern and I'm going to get on as many as I can. Just run that through and then I'll show you these leaves and then I'll go off camera and do the rest of them. Look how pretty these are going to be. Oh my goodness, look at this. So pretty. I love it. That's exactly what I was looking for. So I'm going to go ahead and emboss all the leaves that I cut. So now that I've got my partial die cut here and my other die cuts ready, something I wanted to do was to lay on top of these solid leaves one of the die cut pieces that I cut out and glue it down. So that way when the leaves are standing up, they'll be colored and embossed standing up, but they'll have a support back there. So you might be thinking, now Maymay, why couldn't I just glue this leaf down to the card base down here so that whenever I stand it up, the leaf pops up and it won't need to be partially die cut? Well, here's the thing. Sometimes these die cuts need some support. So by go ahead and doing that partial die cut, it'll give it something to hold it up in the back. If you were to just glue this leaf down, you'd only be gluing it at the stem, and chances are it wouldn't be sturdy enough to stand up over time. And I'll tell you something else. In Alabama, because of our humidity, these easel cards can sometimes wilt in the humidity as they're standing. Like if somebody puts one on their desk or what have you, they can sometimes just kind of fall over. So here's what I mean. See how that's nice and supported and standing up, and also look how clean it is in the back. I think it needs it, so that's why I'm doing it. So that gets our two partially die cut leaves stuck onto the other ones. I didn't do a very good job lining that one up, did I? Oh well, nobody will know. So that part is done. Now what I want to work on is building up some more leaves. I wanted this to feel like a pile of leaves laying here. So for laying of the leaves on top of the pile, I want them to have a little dimension. You see I've put some foam squares at the top of the leaves. I'm going to put glue on the stem. I want the stem to lay flat onto the bottom portion of the card, and I want this to have a lift to it. So I'm laying that stem down, and I'm letting those pop dots just gather in this area. Now I did this with my green leaf here, but I wasn't sure about showing you because I was testing it, but now I want to tell you something. Make sure when you add your pop dots or your foam squares that you put them in a place that they will clear the card base so it doesn't adhere it down. And I did the same thing. I just kind of put some foam tape there, some foam tape here, but I glued the stem straight down. So now that I've got those first leaves down, now I'm going to take some of the orange because I think it needs a pop of color, and I'm going to slide them in. Just play with your leaf placement. Get it like you like it, and you'll be in good shape. So let me add a foam square to the back of this guy. Again, to the top portion, and I'm going to glue down the stem. Probably don't even have to glue it down, but I'm doing it. This is one of those cards where I'm literally playing. I have no idea how it's going to turn out, and you guys are going to get to see it. So we have our first stand-up element of the card. Look how cool that looks, how it's like standing up, but we're not done. And in hindsight, if I were making this card again, this is the kind of stuff I learned. I would probably ink those leaves. I think they'll look better, but I'll do something else to make them pop. All right, now we need something here and something to be our stopper here so that when the person gets this card, it'll stand up. Let's work on this portion. So I have these leaf buttons in my stash that come from my friend Gareth's store, and I adore these buttons. I use them as much as I can in the fall because I think they're adorable. And I'm going to use this red one, but I wanted to show you all those colors. And while looking at Pinterest over the weekend, I think I saw something where either somebody did this or it reminded me of this. And here's what I'm going to do. I want to wrap some baker's twine around the bottom and tie that button on. But I don't want to fight with it on the edges sliding up and down. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this portion of the panel where we have it scored, okay, so we're working with this portion, and I'm going to put it into my envelope punch and center it and punch on that edge so that it gives me this notch in. See that? I'm going to turn around and do the other side just the same. So it might be better if I turn it over where I can see it. Center that edge, just like I did the other side, and then punch a notch into it. So by using the envelope punch board, I get these notches cut into that bottom edge, and I'll show you what I'm going to do with those. So like I said, I want to run baker's twine, but I don't want to fight with it because sometimes it can be so fiddly, and I don't want to tape it down. I want to be able to actually tie this around, and I'm going to take off a good bit because I want to wrap it several times. And I'm just using some orange baker's twine from my stash. So what I'm doing is I'm holding this baker's twine, leaving myself plenty to tie a bow once I get this done. I'm going to hold it in place and I'm going to wrap it. These notches remind me of like a spool kind of. They kind of give the feel of a spool. And I'm going to wrap this until I need to stop, and I better stop there so I have enough to put my button on. So see how that just wraps around and holds it in place. Now I'm going to thread my button on. So now both are threaded through, and this is where it can get a little fiddly, but I'm going to play with it until I get that leaf right where I want it, and then I'm just going to tie a knot. Now one more thing I'm going to do. Notice how the leaf is not turned the way I want it to go? That doesn't bother me. I'm going to stick a foam dot behind it, and I'm going to put it where I want it and stick it down. So I'm just going to stick it just like that. That'll hold it, and now I can tie my bow. So that's how the front is going to look so far. I may add something to it. We'll see in a second. So I've decided to mat the inside of the card with this orange paper. So I just cut it 1/4 inch smaller than the inside. So this is cut at 4 by 5 1/4. I'm just going to lay that in here, and it'll just kind of mat the inside, and it'll give me a way to have a little color when it's all popped up. Now let's flip this guy over. See how our easel element is working there? I want to have something to lock this into place so that it'll stand still. So now we need to work on a sentiment first. So I'm using an image from my stamp set called Stitched Shapes, and I will leave a link to my store below. So if you're interested in any of the stamp sets I'm using today, you'll be able to find them there. I'm using this image because I'm going to make this a thank you card, and I'll tell you why. I think easel cards are perfect for thank you cards, and the reason is the recipient can take that card that you worked so hard on, and they can display it in their home, at their office, wherever they may want to be reminded that you were thankful for something they did for you. And I think it's cool because they can always remember it. So now let's stamp a sentiment on this little rectangle. I'm going to put it right down here in the corner and just magnet it into place, just like so. And then I'm going to pick what I want it to say. So I'm going to use 3 stamps from this set. I'm going to use thank you, for being my, and then the word friend. And these, I think that the Misty is perfect for these types of stamps because here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to line it up on the little stitch shape image using, the stamp itself. I can just lay it in there. So I'm going to stamp the first word, and I stamp them individually because I think I get a better placement that way. So I'm just going to pick this up. I'm going to ink up the word thank you. Just like so, and then just send that over to stamp it. So I've got thank you. I'm going to take that one off. Then I'm going to line up for being my. We'll put it right here. So I've got it lined up. I had to move it where I could get my head in the screen for a second so I could get it in the right place. So I'll ink up for being my. Bring that little guy over. Stamp it into place. And then lastly, the word friend. I think I'm just going to put it kind of here at the bottom. So pick that up on the MISTI, ink it up, and stamp it. So I've had people ask me about this, like, where do you use the MISTI? When should I use the MISTI? This is one of those times I think is very key for the MISTI. When you're using these kind of stamp sets like I create where you get a whole bunch of words, I think this is a great way to set up a sentiment. Look how pretty that is. I love it. Okay, so let's get that ready to go into our card. So I've put 4 foam squares on the back of this little sentiment piece. And what I'm going to do is I want my leaves to stand up really tall on the card. If you want the element to stand up very tall, then you want to put your stopper further back in the card. So what I'm going to do here is line this one up in the center of the inside of the card. Pretty centered. I'm not going to be perfect because I'm just eyeballing it. But something like that. So I use the foam tape because you have to. You have to have the foam to lift this piece up because that's going to be what stops the card and holds it into easel shape. Okay, now see how that's not staying? I wanted to show you that on purpose because I'm going to show you how to make it stay. So it's not staying. So here's what you do. Once you get it all made, because you've been opening and closing this card so much, you need to go back and give it some more scoring, especially here. Usually just scoring that will make it stay. So there you go, guys. That's our pop-up easel card with partial die cutting and notches to hold our baker's twine in place. I think this will work for lots of things, y'all. We could use that envelope punch board to notch in for ribbon and all kinds of stuff. I love how I didn't have to fight with that to keep it there at all. And now when the recipient gets it, they won't have to worry about it falling off either. I hope you enjoyed this one today. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you make a card similar to this, we want to see it. Head over to my Facebook group, which is called Maymay Made It and So Did I, and show us what you're making. As a matter of fact, right now we have a contest going on that's called Outside of the Box, where you try something you haven't tried before and show us a picture of it. And this might be one for you. Thanks so much for watching today, guys. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.